Many people wonder about different sales channels, and they're not always quite certain what a manufacturer's rep is versus a broker or distributor or a direct salesperson. And as the marketplace continues to change, I think it becomes more and more important that folks understand the reasons why people use manufacturer's reps, what a manufacturer's rep is, and how to best leverage a relationship with a manufacturer's rep. Probably one of the most common misconceptions is that a manufacturer's rep is a broker. They do not take ownership of the product, and they sell for very specific companies with very specific capabilities. So in the case of our organization, we're selling for companies like Klaus Stamping that provide short-run stamped parts that would go to OEMs, and we have a territory or a geographic responsibility where we go out and develop work on their behalf. Major difference would be a broker may buy parts from different stampers from overseas, from various sites, and then resell those parts into the marketplace. So there's many reasons why a contract manufacturer, or what we would refer to as one of our principals or lines, would use a manufacturer's rep. One of the major reasons is because manufacturer's reps typically are embedded in their geographic territories, have lived there for a very long period of time, have deep relationships with the customers, have a great understanding of the products they sell, and it's a variable cost as opposed to a direct cost. So if a manufacturer wants to start up their own sales force and they were to go out and hire, in the case of our organization, 18 people to represent a large geographic area, they would struggle to take on that investment, and they would basically be starting from scratch or from ground zero. They wouldn't have the 50 plus years of history that we have in our territories. And so the upfront investment is significant, and also there's a real value that we bring to the marketplace because of what I would call synergistic lines. And what that means is we sell different processes that go together. So things like injection molding, stamping, castings, printed circuit board assemblies, cable assemblies, all these different technologies are oftentimes consumed by the same OEMs that we're calling on. So if we're providing someone a stamping, we're servicing those stampings, our stamper, like Clow, is doing a good job for the marketplace. As we're in looking at applications, we may uncover a problem that they're having with, let's say, injection molded parts, and we can now have a conversation about how our injection molder can help them reduce cost, improve performance, and reduce lead time to essentially gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. If I was only selling injection molded parts, I would constantly be trying to find a problem, and the timing of that is much more difficult than when you're already inside a company supporting them and supporting their needs with a different process. People often wonder how a manufacturer's rep benefits each part of the industry. So the OEM, maybe a design firm, maybe the manufacturer, or what we call the principal themselves. And so I think it's important to sort of understand the benefits that a manufacturer's rep brings. If I'm looking at it from the perspective of the OEM, one thing that we may bring to the conversation that's different than a direct salesperson would bring is the perspective of representing many different companies and seeing many different processes. So it's kind of like a hammer to a nail. Everything to a hammer looks like a nail. Whereas from our perspective, we could go into an OEM, they may have a large molding program. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, this should be injection molded. And with injection molding comes a very expensive capital investment. And we may look at that same application and say, it could be injection molded, but have you considered thermoforming, or have you considered rotomolding, or other processes that may lend themselves to a lower volume application with maybe lower cost tooling and a shorter lead time? So that's just one example of how we would help an OEM have a conversation about a new product or a new process as they're trying to unveil their next generation program.